college. Some other places.
You do dance.
I teach dance. What kind of dance? I teach classical ballet.
You have 3 girls, right?
2 boys and a girl, but my girl is in ballet.
She does private lessons too. You have class after this? What is it? Oh, it's
And should go, Drew should go at Lighthouse High School.
okay. So these are like 18-year-olds? How are they?
We'll see.
Kids. Yeah. Oh, it's awful. Sorry. So let's go from here. Your name, your age.
Hi, my name is Leah.
If you're single or attached. If you're looking or what is it? What does it matter? Well, it's a way to waste time, like everything else under the sun.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I'm a funny man. Yeah, please.
My name is Leah. I'm 19.
Excellent.
My name is Sarah. I'm 36. And let's see, what else can I talk? Dog and cat. They're lovely.
Okay, good.
I'm Food, 19, and
Okay. Not looking. Excellent.
My name is Tasha, 34. Kids sometimes. Attached. 3 kids.
Did you look at Northridge?
I still have to apply for SF State.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you studying again?
Philosophy. No. Political science.
Political science. That's not a good field.
What?
Well, politics ultimately is about society, and society is ultimately about human psychology. Human psychology is ultimately about how people interpret things. That's philosophy. So if you study philosophy is like Costco. You know, political science is like 7-Eleven. If you do philosophy, then you have access to everything.
Maybe my master's I'll do.
Philosophy? No, that'll be too late.
What, really?
Yeah, you'd be contaminated by then. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Cynthia, please.
My name is Cynthia. I'm 42. I'm single.
Okay. Okay, good. Cynthia. Yeah.
my name is Ahmed. 42, and attached to a daughter.
You're what?
Attached in a relationship, married.
You're married?
Yeah.
But you're 23.
So she knows this.
This is such a depressing class. Good luck.
Yeah, I'm happy it's okay.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah.
18. Single, not looking.
Good job. You know, Fuke is not looking either.
Far.
You know what happens when two not looking people look at each other? They continue not to look.
That's there.
Yeah. You remember Cassie, right? Please, Cassie, go ahead. Yeah.
Cassie.
Old.
Married.
Ahmed, you don't have children, right? Good job.
What would you do if I said I did?
I feel bad for you. Yeah. It's up to you. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. It's good to see you, Kendra. It's been a while. Your mom is good? Your brother? Okay. Okay, good. Please.
I'm Samantha. A lot of my friends call me Smile and I'm studying psychology. I don't know what I want to do.
You don't know what you have going on?
Like as far as the other part.
I mean, if you're like studying psychology, you should have some idea. So you are with someone, you just don't know where it's going. You don't know what?
But I don't think I can. So I don't know.
Can you explain that to me? I mean, if you could put it in like a scenario, let's say you and I. So if you're in a relationship, let's just say,
But that's because I come off that. But like, not on purpose.
so you flirt with me and we spend a lot of time together. We may even share the same bed, but that doesn't mean anything. Is that what you're saying?
What time in life?
So it may mean something for me, but not for you.
Yeah.
And if I was to ask you, so where we stand, you say to me, Amir, I love you, but I don't really know where this is going to go. And that's supposed to make me feel safe.
Because I'm here, I love you part. You know that part.
But I may come home and your stuff may be packed up and you're maybe ready to leave. You're here right now. So let's just enjoy the moment and not think about the future. Okay, that sounds really bad. For me, it's great for you because, you have doors and windows open, you can leave at any time. But if I'm attached to you, that's like a heartbreak waiting for me to happen. And then I may need to go look for a psychologist or a therapist, right? So you studying psychology, knowing full well how human interior works, you will break me intentionally, forcing me to go seek a therapist, getting depressed, being on medication, maybe even think about committing suicide. Is that what you're doing to me? You left me.
But not that part.
Oh, so you crap all over me. And as you see me like bleeding all over the place, you say, by the way, Amir, now that we're only friends, maybe even acquaintances, you can come to me and I can like heal you. Is that what you're saying? So the anger and the hatred I feel towards you are going to be sidelined for those therapy sessions.
I mean, don't I get paid for that? Like,
So first you shit all over me and then you want my money. That's really good. Good for you. You're a clever woman. That was tough work. Yes.
Hi, my name is Vilma. I'm 50 years old. I'm 50 years old.
50?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You look really good. You have children?
Yeah, I have one
Boy, girl?
boy,
How old?
19.
What does he do?
He's here in school.
Oh, he goes to college. What does he study?
Carpenter.
Carpentry. Okay. That's great.
Eighth grade. Want to say what to do.
Ah, he's like her. I love you, hate you, love you, hate you. Yeah. What can you do with kids? They suck. But you love them regardless. Okay. Kendra, it's good to see you. Have a good class. So what do you guys want to talk about? Let's do something fun today, since I'm exhausted. Yes, Eva.
Do you think there's such a thing as good people and bad people?
So there are those that we categorize as psychopaths for whatever the reasons are. They feel no pain when they hurt other people. I remember I was on College Avenue. You know where Cole's coffee shop is? It's across from Safeway. So there's this nice woman just sitting and drinking her coffee. And this other woman walks across the street, smacks her in the face. Really, and this was an old woman drinking coffee. She falls to the ground. Her nose is either broken, but she's all bloodied. And this woman who threw the punch just walks away. No remorse, no guilt, no apologies, nothing. And I suppose for people like that, you know, or for someone like Donald Trump, let's just say. I mean, I don't know the guy too well, but anyone who's able to pocket, you know, $1.5 billion in a year and feel nothing for poor people, feel nothing for sick people, you could call them a psychopath to some extent. So there's a category of people, for whatever the reasons are, their neurons just function a different way. They have either some screws missing or they have extra screws. I don't really know, you know, but whatever they are and however they're made, they have no sense of empathy. Okay. In other words, you need to feel a little bit of guilt for how you treat people and what you do to them. I mean, my girlfriend over there, you know, the fact that she says, well, you know, when we first met, I loved you, time entered. All of a sudden I realized I don't really like you that much. Therefore, in as much as, you know, you bought me a house, we have a plan for our wedding, I want to walk away from this because I just don't like who and what you are. Assalamu alaikum. What? The what? Yeah, you can feel guilty, but I walk around the lake and I see you holding hands with someone else. What good is that guilt for me? You're in a relationship. You're responsible for me. The hell, man. Christ. These selfish people. Look at Rhett. How are you doing? Good to see you. So, then there is, hello? Then there is another category of people. Most of us, if I was to, for example, break down what she just told me about our relationship. What? Not for you, for me it is. You've already dumped me, I fine. Now, here's the thing. I go back to something that Socrates, the Greek philosopher, had said some 3,000 years ago, is that what exactly is it that people want? I mean, people want to be happy. I mean, nobody gets into a marriage to divorce. Nobody has kids to beat them up. Nobody gets a job to be bored. You know, nobody wants a life that creates misery. All of us open our eyes and we pursue the desires of the day in hopes of being happy. Right? Now, what was your name again? Sanaya. So, if I was to create a story, okay, I'll give it to you this way. Let's say I have great parents. I've never been exposed to betrayals by parents. I've never seen my parents fight. They're never divorced. My father never walked out. I know these people. I've known them for about 60 years. So when I walk into any relationship, that is my foundation. That's my background. I have healthy parents marriages are supposed to be, they suffer friction once in a while. For the most part, they are healthy. Okay, so when I walk into a marriage, I don't walk, or any relationship, I don't plan to walk away because that's not the way I've been seasoned. Now, there is scenario, if we were to create a story, okay. So my vision of happiness is you get married, you find someone, or it's arranged for you, you get married and life is going to be tough, ups and downs, you kind of survive it. That's my definition. Her story may be different. She may have opened her eyes at the age of 2 and looks at her mom and says, "Mom, where is Dad?" And her mom says, "He left. Left for where? When is he coming back?" He's not coming back. He's a sucky human being. Now, remember at a very, very young age, what all of us in this class desire when you're, just an infant, is you want stability. Hello? Right? You want permanence. You want to make sure that anytime you walk home, your parents are there. Maybe she didn't have that. So by the time she got to be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, she came to realize, you know what? Relationships are somewhat fickle. You can't really depend on people. The best thing you can do is just take care of yourself. Your mom is busy with her own stuff. Your dad, God knows where he is. So I'm going to walk into relationships and I'm going to see what they can offer me. And the moment I'm unhappy, I'm just going to leave. Now, the problem with relationship is that about 80% of the time you're just bored. And the way you distract yourself in relationship is you go out and you have food, like In-N-Out, you stand in line for 5 hours to get your number 2, you eat your food, and then you kind of whine about how bad the food is. That's how time is spent, right? And so Sanaya says, this is how I'm going to deal with relationships. Now, the two of us meet at a coffee shop. Now, remember, both of us want to be happy. My interpretation of happiness is I walk into a relationship, lots of ups and downs, but I will survive them. I have the tools. Her vision of happiness is people suck, they're not dependable, they're not trustworthy. So the point I'm trying to make is you are ultimately what you've been exposed to. But the undercurrent for all people is that everybody wants to be happy. Every single person in this classroom, they just don't like to be bored. For someone in this class, they hear my voice, it's monotone, they say, yuck, another Monday, Wednesday, here we go again. I'm going to be bored to hell. Another person says, you know what, this is what I need. So the point I'm trying to make ultimately is, I have forgotten your question.
If there's good and bad.
Oh yes, good and bad. So good and bad are nothing but interpretation of experiences. And the way you interpret experiences depends really on, I'm from Iran. You know what's been happening the past month in Iran? Right now, I don't know if the news is accurate or not, but about 40,000 people under the age of 20 have been killed. Who kills them? Not Americans, not the English, not the French. Iranians or Persians killing Persians. One group of people is dominant. They are the supporter of the current government. They take their orders from their leaders, kind of like ICE. What's always interesting about ICE when you see the footage on TV or YouTube is that you have an African American, or you have someone Hispanic, or you have an immigrant who's become a citizen. So you have an African American who knocks on the door of a black person. You have Mexican knocking on the door of a Mexican. The point I'm trying to make ultimately is you have two people from the same culture, but they have a different interpretation of what happiness is. One says, you know what, I don't really care if I have to kill my own countrymen. I'm getting paid $200,000 a year. That's my happiness. So if it means that I have to rat out my people, I'll do so. No guilt there. Then you have another ICE agent, for example. They've been raised a little different. Initially the money sounds very attractive, but when they are put in action, they realize that, yes, the person they're talking to is their own countryman, and they just don't feel good about it. And they say, you know what, I'm just going to put the 200,000 on the cross, I'm going to bury it. I don't really care for the money. And they quit the job. And your question is, well, how could two people react so differently? Well, temperament is at play, background is at play, hopes and desires are at play. So there are lots of moving parts. Having said all of that, once again, I've forgotten your question, but let's move on. Ahmed.
What I was thinking about is you think studying the way how the brain of a person who is, say for example, if you got someone that's a really abusive person that doesn't care about feelings versus a person that's really sympathetic and doesn't abuse people or doesn't hurt their feelings for the enjoyment, do you think studying their brains would yield different results?
So Stanford did some research on this stuff, and so what they did some years ago is that they got two chimps at a very, very young age. One was put in a cage, and that chimp was isolated. The other was put in a community of other chimps. They're all young. So the one that was confined to a solitary cage, food was thrown at him, lights were dimmed. He was never petted, never talked to gently. Food was never given to him gently. The other one, on the other hand, the cage was opened, and then the food was gently placed before him, and he was in a social setting. So he had to adapt, and he was petted every single day for 10 minutes. These 2-month-old chimps eventually became 10-year-olds. And they were set loose in a cage with 50 other chimps. The one who was placed in a solitary environment was always looking for a fight. It's aggressive, violent. The one that was raised in a very social setting, very friendly. So what can you learn from this? Let's just say. Imagine that you have no mom, you have no dad, right? And at the age of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you came to realize that you have to kind of create your own life and protect your own physical body. At the age of 5, you need some emotional support, not to be found anywhere. At the age of 10, for example, you want to go to school and your teachers want to kind of mature the way you think about this and that. But because you have kind of lost your ability to have faith and trust, you don't listen to your teachers. So any authority figure who comes into your life and wants to give you something positive, you kind of push back. Then you get to be 15. You become like a Mike Tyson. Or you become like a Conor McGeorge. You just pick fights with people. Now, if your question is, I have studied the chimps and I've learned a few lessons about what it means to live inside your own head and never coming out, how do I overcome that? If you're talking about 5, 10, 15, 20 years of addiction, I don't know, you need a Jesus Christ. Just because you study something, it means that the only thing that they can do is take notes, have some intellectual understanding. But whether or not you can use that understanding to better your own life, that's a completely different story. Just because you have a tool in your house, it doesn't mean that you know how to use it. I have 5,000 2x4s in my house. It doesn't mean I know how to build a house. It just means I have, the money to go to Home Depot and buy stuff. So I think there are different categories of people. Someone like her, for example, gets her PhD in psychology and gets to know the ins and outs of how the brain functions. Let me do this a different way. Abraham Maslow, I don't know if any of you in this class know who and what he is. Jewish American psychologist, very, very profound thinker. Despite all the things he knew, hello Jesse, despite all the things he knew about psychologists, and remember, we're talking about the 1960s. I mean, it's a vibrant time, man. It's a time where all these intellectuals gather and talk. He was never able to make peace with his mom. I mean, how is that possible? You have all these tools in your toolboxes. Why is it that your mom dies, you don't even go to her funeral service because you hate her so much? Why don't you practice what you preach? And the truth is, sometimes the only thing you can do is just accumulate information or knowledge. And you can only use them on some people, but never on yourself. I don't know if that answers anything. Maybe not. Yeah.
What do you mean by using it on other people, like some people? How do you use technology on other people, but not yourself?
Okay, so let's talk about Tasha for a minute. And Jesse here has to wait another like 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. Tasha comes home and she has, or Myrna. Myrna perhaps is the best example because she has a 19-year-old. Okay. If you have paid attention to the way Myrna speaks, she's an immigrant. Right? Immigrants worry. Immigrants come to America because of hopes and dreams that their own country can't give them. So in your own land, you know, they kill your hopes and dreams. So you're desperate to have a better life. You're desperate to have your kids live a better life. So you migrate to America. And in migrating, you lose your family, you lose your land, you lose the smell of your people on your land, the history, all that stuff. Then you come here. Where she comes from, community oriented. Here, everybody just locks themselves up in their tiny little room. They never come out. And if they do, they don't look at you. And if they do, they don't say hello to you. Okay? So she leaves a lot of things behind. She has a wealth of experience as an immigrant. She looks at her son and says, listen, you know why we came here, right? We came here to live out the dream, to make our dreams become a reality. Why do you keep wasting your time? Now, Myrna gives her son advice, but her son doesn't listen. Why? First of all, he's far too close to her. He doesn't respect her. He doesn't fear her. On the other hand, if her son was to listen to Jesse, someone he doesn't know, that distance creates respect. That distance creates fear. Jesse will say the exact thing that his mom has told him. All of a sudden, he listens. And your question should be, why is it that we never listen to the people closest to us, but we listen to strangers who say the same exact thing? So this statement that you find in the New Testament, no prophet is ever welcome in his own town. Now, you don't need to make this religious. If your father has a good piece of advice to give you, you don't have the ears to hear. You'll hear it from her, but not him. Why? Relationship, distance, respect, fear. Once those things are absent, you won't listen to what your father says. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make, Maslow could have given some remedy to some poor chap who hates his mom, but he can't apply his own remedy to himself. And this is always the case for all of us. You know, no one is exempt from this. You know, I've been in 9 marriages, maybe 10. Because this, I'm sorry? Oh, no, I'm not like you. No, I plan to get in them and stay in them. They just all leave me. I mean, I don't know why. I'm a nice guy. Don't you think? And so, you know, when my friends go through divorces, I give them great advice. In fact, they're so good, it saves their marriage. And yet, I can't use the advice on my own, for myself. See? It's called the injustice of life. Eva. You know, I'm really sorry for our class to be this way. Mondays are really bad days. From Thursday to Sunday, I don't really speak to anybody. And then I only listen to Persian music. And so when I come to campus on Monday, it'll be like my first time speaking English in like a few days. And it sounds foreign. And everything sounds a little weird. So it takes a while for my brain to warm up. Does that, so just in case some Mondays are just flat and some Wednesdays are just flat or they're just flat all the time? I'm just giving you my excuse. Trying to justify how incompetent I am, yes.
I think we benefit from that. From quite a few people.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you, you know, who just like to go to sleep and fantasize, it's great. You come to class on monotone, don't say anything interesting. Yeah, Ava.
Talk a lot about like
Ava,
how,
you know, as you get older, you lose abilities. I can't,
all of our decisions are kind of shaped.
say again?
How we're very shaped by all of our experience.
Right.
But you were born with a personality that's like rooted in ourselves.
So there are a couple of things. You have personality and then you have temperament. These are two very, very different things. Temperament is something you're born with. You're an introvert. You're an extrovert. You're a thinker. You're a feeler. You know, you don't like to be around people. Some people are very social. That's not really up to you. You can always make some modest adjustments, but you can't get rid of the software that lives inside you. You know, my father, he's just born to be very positive. He's a 92-year-old man, you know, and every time I talk to him, he's like this messiah, always giving me positive. He's like Tony Robbins, but like 1,000 times better than Tony Robbins. You know, Tony Robbins is fake, but that's besides the point. Okay. Now, sometimes my brother and I, you know, he also teaches psychology and computer science, and we always say, you know, my father has a gift. He just was born to be optimistic. I mean, 50,000 young kids just died in Iran. My father looks at this in a very optimistic way. Government is going to change. People are going to prosper, you know. And so, you know, when I told him the news that, Dad, you know, I'm going to have an open heart surgery, I may not come out of this, so I just want to say thank you for all the things you did. And not a shed of tear, nothing. He kind of looks at me and says, you'll make it. I know you'll make it. And even if you die, I'll see you in hell. And then he gives me a belly laugh. Who does that? Okay. Now, do I want to be like my dad? The truth is yes. Do I like to look at things, you know, like people say half cup is full as opposed to half cup empty? He's always a half full cup of a sort of a guy. I'm not like that. You know, even if you give me a cup that's full, I'll say it's empty. You know, someone like Jesus, he's a gloomy guy, gloomy. Nothing down here is worth pursuing, nothing. Why? He's an introvert. And introverts can't find anything to connect with on the outside. Their best friend is only themselves. They'll get married, they'll have children, but there'll always be the space between them and their companions, always. And do they feel guilty about this? Yes. Can they change? The answer is no. Will they fake it? Yeah. If they've been socialized relatively well, they can fake it. Okay. So that's the first thing you need to understand. Some people are just born to be out there, and some people don't feel comfortable, and there isn't much you can do. Okay. Then you have this other thing called personality. Now, personality are masks that you have to wear in order to survive. Now, if your father's a drunk, I will assure you, you will find ways to cope with his drunkenness. And that eventually will become a habit for you. Anyone who resembles your father's attitude, you know exactly what to do. Okay? Now, here's the thing. Let's say you get married. You get married to Ahmed. Okay? And you realize once in a while, you guys get into a small tiff, he raises his voice. And because you have trigger points, in other words, your past creates triggers. Some positive, some negative. In this case, it's negative because every time your father got angry, he beat the hell out of you. Okay? So every time his voice, the volume goes up, your father comes to mind. He comes to the surface. Okay. So what you do is you do what you've always done, which is to retreat. You learn how to do this for the past like 20 years, and that it becomes habitual, and that's what you do. Now, personalities you can always change, but that requires a lot of time and a lot of effort. Not on your part. Someone else needs to walk into your life and train you. One of the best movies you can kind of watch to get a better understanding as to how personality functions and works and how it's created. There was a movie that came out in the 1980s with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. It's called Trading Places. You know, for those of us who are a bit older, like Jesse and I, it was like a hit movie in the 1980s. And what you have is the following. You have two old farts owning this company. And they're in the bathroom, and you know when you get older, it takes like 50 hours for the pee to come out of you, right? So they're both like standing by the urinal, and they want to pee, it's not coming out, so they engage in a conversation. And it's one of the traits that men have. They're very competitive for all the stupid reasons, right? And so this old man looks at this other old man, they're partners, and says, you know, we ran into this poor guy, homeless guy outside. That's Eddie Murphy, you know, asking for money. And we have our vice president. Do you think that we can bring the homeless guy and make him a VP and make our VP homeless? One guy says yes, the other guy says no. So they place a bet. You know how much the bet is? $1. Okay. Now, the other thing you need to understand, people in power, rich people, don't really care for you and I. Next time you want to cast your vote for the next president, you need to understand this. Powerful people don't care for you and I. Once in a while, you have a branch coming out of a powerful person. And that particular branch acts decently. But for the large part, they're indecent, inhumane people. Okay? And maybe that's just the nature of politics. So remember, $1, that's the bet. That bet will ruin one life and will rise, recreate another life. There was a guy, psychologist by the name of B.F. Skinner. And this is what he believed. And I think that's what this movie is about. Place any human animal in an environment with a specific set of forces, and you could reshape and recondition them. You could change who and what they are. And so Eddie Murphy walks into the VP's office, but he's been homeless most of his life. And if you're homeless and food is difficult to get, you begin to steal. So as the partners are talking to Eddie Murphy and tell him that you're the VP of this company, while they're looking away, Eddie Murphy puts this in his pocket, puts another thing in his pocket, and these two old men look at him and say, listen, this is your office. What is in this office belongs to you. You don't need to steal them. They are yours. You can take them and sell them if you want, but they are yours. They're not going anywhere. And so what you realize, little by little, the homeless man has the personality of the BP all of a sudden, the VP. Okay. Another movie that you may be interested in, Pretty Woman. You have a prostitute, Julia Roberts. You change the environment a little bit, change the dynamics of the relationships that she's in, falls in love with Richard Gere. She comes to realize that her body no longer desires to just sleep with anyone for money. It needs to be filled with love. So the point I'm trying to make is you can change people's personality by putting them in different physical spaces. Another movie that you may be interested in, talk about, certain aspects of ethics. The movie, again, another experiment by Stanford called The Experiment. For those of you in this class who have not watched that movie, watch it. It's really, really good. Okay. So you have what's his name? The guy who plays in it? Some guy. So you have this guy who doesn't really have much of a life. He's got a sick mom who always yells at him. And you can kind of connect this to Karl Marx, where religion becomes a numbing mechanism. This guy doesn't look good. His life is bad. His mother is bad. He hasn't really done anything with his life. He's kind of a loser. He reads the Bible. But what do you do when your physical life is bad? You try to work on your spiritual life. That's how you compensate, okay? So he reads this article in the paper that we're doing this experiment. It's only for a few days. If you participate, we'll give you $1,000. Okay. So hopes and dreams are sold. That this experiment, 5 days, $1,000. The thing you need to understand, all of us in this class, if you want to function, you need hopes and you need dreams. Depressed people don't have hopes. Depressed people don't have dreams. They sit in their room. They pull down the blinds. Their lights are always turned off. They don't want to talk to anyone. So hopes and dreams are the fuel of our engine. Okay? And so in this movie, which is, a real life experiment, is that all of a sudden there are two camps in this experiment. One are the prison guards and one act as prisoners. Time passes and people forget that this is only an experiment. They actually assume the character. So the Bible thumper, the complete loser, is now in charge of all these guards and all these prisoners. And you know what he does? I mean, you would think that after reading like 20 years of like scripture, you'd be a bit more humble, a bit more reflective, a bit more aware, a bit more spiritual, but no. You're only spiritual because you have no physical power. And your spirituality has never been tested by physical power. Now he has physical power. And when you have physical power, you don't need to read the Bible. It's something we talked about. 18th century comes about, you now have money in your pocket. You don't need to go to church. Sundays, you get yourself in a car and you drive around to see which house you want to buy and how many of them you want to buy. Okay? The Bible thumper now begins to beat up people. It's only near the end of the movie where he's about to stab someone. He stopped and he's pushed into reflection. And he then says, what the hell am I doing? So the point I'm trying to make, any single person in this room that you see, let me give you another scenario. Malcolm X, a complete loser in his young life. Change his physical environment. Not just prison, but bring in his brother Reggie. Add Elijah Muhammad. And keep blitzing that particular philosophy into his brain. Now you have a prophet of the 20th century. Temperament you can never change. Personality can always change. But to change a personality, and remember, persona, the mask that you wear. When you keep wearing the same mask over and over and over again, you are the mask. The mask is you. Just in case at a certain cross point you come to realize, I just don't like the person I am anymore. Not liking is not enough to change you. Because you're always going to go back to that which is most comfortable and most familiar, which is the mask. If you want to change a mask, okay? If you don't like being alone all the time because of your past, and the past has given you masks to wear to protect yourself, and you're now 30, 40, you say, man, I'm getting older, uglier, smellier, I really don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. I want someone to drive me to Kaiser once in a while, have food with someone, once in a while watch a movie with someone. What you need is call your mom and say, Mom, you were right all along. I suck as a human being. Help me. If she's not that old yet, if she's not that sick yet, if she cares and loves you, if you haven't burned bridges, she's going to walk into your life. She's going to clean your house. She's going to call a couple of her friends and see if they have a son. And then they're going to create some dates for you. And then you're going to go out and you're going to feel weird at first. Okay? And, you're going to shower, you're going to dress, you're going to go out. And then 10 minutes later, you're back at your mom's house. What are you doing here? You were on a date. I just don't feel like it. She's going to slap you and kick you. Now, you may think from someone on the outside, she's going to look at your mom and say, you know what? I'm going to call SPCA on this woman. How dare that she slap her kid? But what he doesn't realize is that she has worked tirelessly for the past 10 years to get you out of the house. He only has access to 5 minutes, not the 5 years that she's been working so hard on you. She'll push you out. Now that, if she doesn't give up, and most often, good teachers eventually give up. Anyone who's got something good to offer you. And then little by little, you're made comfortable in going out and dating and having conversations. And then one day you realize you gravitate towards your cell phone and you're calling Joe, something you've never done. Why? A different mask. Who gave it to you? Your mom. How? First, she had to yank this mask out, trash it. Try to figure out which mask would best fit you, the mask that's healthy for your life. So if you don't like where you are, if you don't like who you are, you can't do it in your head. Physical environment. If you worry about your kids and the neighborhood in which you live, just sitting him down and having a conversation with him, no matter how philosophical you may be, and that conversation may be, it's not going to do much. Save your money, take some money out, get a loan, go buy a house in Montclair. Yes.
No.
Ahmed? Cynthia.
So in other words, it's like Shakespeare. Shakespeare says that we are in a play. We all are actors. So we wear a mask. It's like a personality in that way.
Yes. But here's the thing. Oftentimes, other people write the script and you play it. Okay? Let's say you and I are married. Okay? And you have your own money, you have your own job, you have your own life. I happen to be a type A personality. I'm very dominant, very aggressive, very crude, very brute. Okay? So every time you want to say something, every time you want to pursue something, I crush it. After a while, you realize that every time you want to go shopping, you ask for my permission, something you've never done before, which means that for the first 19 years of your life, you wrote your own script and you played your own part. Now I do it for you. What you have for us is that society now does it. Advertisement does it. It's what we call market research, not human research, market research, which means the following. You say you have 50,000 in your bank and you want to build a business, okay? So you go to West Oakland. Say, okay, I'm really interested in books. I'm going to open up a bookstore. You walk around town and you say, okay, well, with this neighborhood, no one's going to buy any books. So instead of opening up a bookstore, you know what you open up? A pawn shop. And before you know it, now you have 2 pawn stores. Then 3, then 4, then 5. Okay. If you go to a different location, and the point I'm trying to make is ultimately scripts or how you want to play with your life is written by other people. Look at the assignments that you have to do for this class. You don't have a choice. I write them for you. Now here's the thing. If you are very, very lucky, and it's just luck, it has nothing to do with you. If you're very, very lucky, as you're walking home, you see a book on the ground. You pick it up and it happens to be the Dialogues of Plato. If you don't know what that is, let's say it happens to be the New Testament. And you happen to be in a very strange mood. Now you hate religion, you hate preachy talk and conversation. You pick up this book and you read the Gospel of Luke, for example. And something about the book captures your attention. Okay? And you wipe off the dust. You go home, you clean the book, you sit on your sofa, something you haven't done for a while, and you read the book, cover to cover. And then as you begin to have conversation with your friends, your language begins to change a little. Your emotions begin to change a little. The way you think begin to change a little. All of them are now spiced or seasoned with, say, New Testament stories. Okay? And what you've done is you have allowed another power source to write the script for you, how to think, how to feel, and how to behave. Now that is a good script to have. Okay. Now you may be like Pinocchio, very decent father, very decent mother. You've always been ethical and moral. And then you move to Oakland. And in Oakland, you begin to have some dicey friends. You begin to smoke a little, porn a little, and all of a sudden the script changes. Now, once the script changes, you take that script home. and the way you express it begins to annoy your parents. Now you have conflicting of two different scripts. Your parents want you to go to school. Your script is you want to go out there and have fun. And eventually one will have to win. And it's not going to be your parents. So for those of you again in this class who are not very happy with where you are in life, change your physical location. Every physical location has its own forces. Those forces will impose themselves upon your psyche and eventually create different thought patterns, emotions, and then slowly, if you can survive it, you'll change. Did you? Yeah, Leah.
In the office a week ago, Avi and I, we talked about different cultural perceptions of the past, present, and the future. I can't recall the name of the concept, but Avi talked about a concept in Hinduism of reincarnation, but not like the positive kind, where you're kind of just doomed to repeat life. And then I suppose I am not explaining it the way she did, but I suppose the key to getting out of it is simply accepting it and finding a teacher to actually pull you out of it. But I don't know. She described it as
No. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Jesse and I and Mirna to some extent will tell you, as you get a little older, you lose your ability to be patient. So sometimes when I cut you off, I mean no disrespect. I kind of assume, wrongly perhaps, where you're going and what you're saying. So, isn't that true, Ahmed? Thank you. So, let's look at reincarnation in a way that makes sense. I mean, bring it down here, make it practical, digestible for us regular people. Is that okay? Okay, so, our human evolution from coming down here being naked, coming to realize that the weather is harsh, animals are tough, we don't really have structures where we can, secure our bodies. We go on this quest. Because remember, every time that there is a disturbance, whether on your physical body, on your emotional body, on your intellectual body, whenever there are disturbances, you're going to be unhappy. So if you want to understand a basic definition of what it means to be happy, an animal always questing for happiness. Okay? Now the word happy comes from the word hap. Hap. Nilia, hap. You know what it means? Luck. So all the stuff that you guys are listening to on YouTube, Tony Robbins, and other like so-called teachers who are promising us happiness if you do A, B, C, D, some of it has to do with you, sure. Go sit and read a book. Okay? But the main juice has to do with luck. Do the gods like you? It's something we've talked about many, many times in this class. We understand that nature creates freaks like Kobe Bryant, Magnus Carlsen, Bjorn Borg, Mike Tyson. We don't know how they come about. They just come about. They make the rest of us feel shitty. I mean, I wanted to be a basketball player. Someone told me if you keep jumping, you'll eventually get to be 6'5". I jumped. I think it made me shrunk. So most of it is luck. Now, human beings want to be happy. And for you to be happy, you need to be in control. And to be in control, you need to have power. Without power, you can't be in control. Okay. Now, you could suggest that submission, surrender, acceptance is a very powerful act. And it is. I mean, that's what the Stoics taught us. I mean, look at life, Leah. I came here at 4 o'clock in the morning. Around like 5:30, the entire building began to shake for maybe like 5 or 6 seconds. I've been here for almost 30 years, Leah. This is the first time that the tower, this big, tall, concrete, ugly building, shook so violently. I mean, it went all the way down and it then rose back up like Jesus Christ. You know? I have no power over earthquakes. I have no power over these, this concrete falling on my head and crushing my skull. The only thing you have power over is your tiny little space. Now, that tiny little space could either be governed by negative addictions or positive addictions. Now, I'm going to create a scenario. And since it was your question, I'm going to put... Brett, why are you smiling? I haven't even said anything funny.
Just the building going back.
You were thinking about the body part. Shame on you. Now, Ahmed, you shouldn't laugh. You're a Muslim. That wasn't funny. Now,
I was just laughing.
forgive the scenario, but here it is. Reincarnation. And reincarnation for me, in a language that can be received with relative ease and be made practical. I wouldn't mind coming back to life over and over and over again if that life is a happy one. But I would hate to come back to a life that's filled with pain, struggle, and misery, whose only salvation is death. If you look at human life for the past many, many thousands and millions of years, human life is one of struggle. Struggle to figure out who the hell you are, what the hell you need to do before you die in the short few hours that you live, how to cope in a society that is there to demolish every good part of you. Look, I feel bad for you guys. The only thing you guys want is a goddamn degree, to go to a 4-year school, to get a job, to make some money. But to get that ridiculous diploma, which is necessary, you go through so many unpleasant hoops. And you'll be lucky if you don't get a stroke, ulcer, and all sorts of other diseases. But you got to go through a lot of things for an ounce of happiness. Okay? Now, the idea of reincarnation in perhaps a more abstract, metaphysical, philosophical traditions is the following. You live 50, 60, 70 years of your life, but life doesn't really just trash life. Life has the power to recycle what it creates. Human life is part of nature's creation. So once you die, you come back in some shape or form. And whatever shape or form you come back to, it's going to be hell. Whether you're white or black or blue or brown or yellow, it matters very little. You have desires, you got to pursue them. You get your desires, you have them in your hand, you look at them, after a few days you realize they mean nothing. And you sit back and you say, really? I went through all of that stuff to get here, I have it, now I feel shitty. How is that possible? That is what life does. And it doesn't matter how ethical you may be. None of those things really matter. Okay? Now, if you want a better definition of reincarnation, here it is. You don't like to go home being alone, do you? No, who the hell likes it? You live every day. What is it that the world does for you and I, Leah? It injects poison in your classes, in your interaction with other people, with your boss, with your customers, the assignments you got to do. Kim Kardashians and Taylor Swifts and Beyoncé's, all the junk that lives out there. And we have no power to fend them off. They just go inside you like cancer. And they refuse to go out. I have no power over my crummy father. I have no power over my crummy mother. I want to be social. I'm afraid. At a certain point, you get to be 19, 20, 21, 22. At a certain point, you say, instinct, biology kicks in and says, Amir, no, this is a different Amir talking to Amir. I don't care about your past. I don't care how dysfunctional you are. Your body needs to be touched. Go find a girlfriend. But here's the thing. A good psychologist, once I walk into their office, they will unpack who I am on the inside and they realize that I have been shattered into 1,001 pieces. I am no good for anyone. But just because I am no good, it doesn't mean I don't have desires or passions. And it doesn't mean I don't have dreams. I will see you in a coffee shop and some parts of me will say, Leah is attractive. I will find a way to come and talk to you. I'll either intentionally trip and pour my hot boiling coffee all over you. And then we'll say, I live just across the street. I'll wash your clothes. I'll play some trick. Okay. Eventually you and I will get together. Now here's the thing you need to understand about people who are cracked up. I don't know how to be intimate. Now, it doesn't mean I will not have sex. Now, it doesn't mean I can't have good conversations. It doesn't mean that I will not help a homeless person. It doesn't mean that I will not watch a good movie sitting next to you, that I won't buy flowers for you on Valentine's. It just means I am not a long-termer. I can't see myself with anyone. No one can build a house on this crackpot. The most important thing that I have lost in my life, the ability to have faith and trust in people. That is my addiction. So you know what I do, Leah? I become a very ethical Don Juan. I don't just bed women. I bed women, I hang out with them. We talk about marriage and children. But they don't really have much longevity. And after a while, I retreat to the person I've always been. I become angry a little too quick. I keep my distance, and then I exhaust you, and then you walk away. And then I have moments of regret, but I'm also feeling secure because this is my pattern. Then after I'm healed from this breakup, I go to Sarah. And I play the same tricks with Sarah. Then I do the same thing with Sarah. Then I go to Tasha. Then I go to Cynthia. And this day and age, I say, wait a minute. I know what my problem is. I am not heterosexual. Then I go to Ahmed. Then I do the same thing with this guy as I've done to all the other people. They say, I know what it is. I am bi. I am trans. I am pan. I am this. I am that. I put myself in all these different categories. Thinking that my problem is the categories. Then I get to be 40. Then I realize, oh my God, I have lived this life 50 times in the past 20 years. All the people I've been with, let me sit back and study the patterns. I find them in a coffee shop. I buy them coffee. I conversate with them. They like me. I like them. We have sex. We hold hands. We go on trips. At a certain point, I grow tired. And then I get dumped, or I dump them, or I manufacture some emotions to sabotage the relationship. And shit, I've been here 50,000 times. That is called reincarnation. And you always end up in a bad place. And it's always filled with regret and remorse. At a certain point, I say, I don't want to come back to this life again. I want to put a stop. And what I'm asking is, I want nirvana. I want Sabbath. I want the Garden of Eden. I don't want to relive this life and the patterns. And now comes the difficult part, Leah. It's the second part of your question. Should I call Jordan Peterson for an appointment? Should I call Tony Robbins? Should I start going to the church? Maybe I should do psychedelics. Maybe I should do something to stop this madness. And then comes the second part, which is your quest to find a way to stop the past from showing its face every single day. What you have is an inspired moment that has to come with 20 years of addiction. And you're going to have lots of relapses. If you're lucky, you'll find a young teacher. Young teachers are hopeful. Young teachers are not seasoned. Good teachers don't have hope. Good teachers look for, they're pragmatic. You know, good teachers are like Jesse. You know, you don't get married at the age of 20, even though you want to, or 30 or 40. You know, this part of your life that romanticized everything about life, they've been demolished by life. At a certain point, you say, you know what, this is really messed up. You know, I hate doing this stuff to myself. And so, kind of like a good alcoholic, you find an AA center. You just sit there and you listen. And for the first time, despite all the embarrassment, you stand up and you say, hi, I'm new. My name is Amir Sabzavari, 50 years old. I'm an alcoholic. At a certain point, you sit in a circle and you begin to say, yeah, you know, my wife left me and my kids left me. And I just suck as a human being. I gambled my life away. Everything that was good in my life, I pissed it out. And then little by little, if the person who's guiding it finds you interesting and open, determined, because you have to get to a place where you want to transform, and that passion is solid. Young teachers don't look for that. Young teachers they just want to like talk. That's what young teachers want to do. They just want to talk and talk and talk because they assume that words mean anything. You know, transformation requires hard work. And it takes two people, you and your teacher. Now, your teacher knows you're always going to retreat. And they will always forgive your retreats until they reach their max. And once they reach their max, they simply walk away. Good teachers, Leah, they don't function on empathy. Good teachers don't give a shit. You know, Moses, beautiful teacher. I don't have time to teach the Egyptians a few things about what it means to be a Hebrew and what it means to be a slave. They want to come follow us and butcher us. We don't have time to educate them. You know what? I'm just going to butcher them. I'm going to open the sea and then close the sea. If all of them drown, I know they have wives. I know they got kids. I know they got parents. I know their parents are sick. Maybe their kids are sick. I know maybe they're only the breadwinner of the house. I just don't care about any of them. The only people important for me are my teacher, are my people. Now, then comes a later Moses. Now, he's a fantastic teacher at that stage. He looks at his own people and says, you know, I like my people. Hebrews are nice. They have some experience about being slaves, being oppressed, being imposed upon. Fine. But you know what? They're not ready to be taught. So he gives his staff to his brother Aaron. Says, Aaron, I am tired of my own people. I'm going to leave them. You take care of them. So you find yourself in all these different spots. You know, a young teacher thinks that the Pharaoh is going to listen. Then you get a little seasoned. You only become very, very selective. Only your own people, not everybody, just your own people. It's kind of like the Gospel of Matthew. Okay. Then you become a Gospel of Luke. Anyone who opens my door finds it open. And then you get to a place where you say, you know what? No one gets it. So you just walk away. So if there is a door open, you should go through it. As Kierkegaard would say, you take a leap of faith. Leap of faith means you close your eyes and you jump. And just in case you fall and the landing is a little tough, all right, so you'll be bruised a little. After a week, it'll be over. Does that? Yeah.
Well, I wanted to know
Oh, I'm sorry.
how exactly Eastern and Western perceptions of certain things like reincarnation, the past, the future, how exactly did they diverge from one another? When did they diverge? And despite the fact that especially modern America is very diverse with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and many different ethnic groups, how exactly did it become so individualistic, and how to, despite the fact that a lot of people don't actually come from those cultures?
Really? You've given me like a Costco of a question. There's so many layers, so many aisles, and so many shelves.
I can find what the answer just was.
I'll tell you the following. They have given me some numbers about how many classes they can offer next semester. And there's a massive cut in California, colleges and universities, but especially colleges. And I realize the number of classes that we have to offer, it's just so insignificant. You know, the total is just 5. I mean, it makes the department irrelevant, unimportant, insignificant. It's just useless. The number, when it was emailed to me, my assumption had its roots in the past, that usually we offer anywhere from like 8 to 10, maybe sometimes 12, maybe 15 classes. So when I saw the email, initially I was excited. Once I opened the email and I read it, that power just seeped out and it was replaced with poverty. 5 classes? We have like 13,000 students on this campus. And philosophy only offers like 5 classes? What the hell? You know? I mean, we offer, 50 math classes and 40 ESL classes and 900 English classes. Just cut a few from them and give it to the social sciences. Give 2 like extra or 3 extra to philosophy. Give 5 to like sociology, 2 to psychology. That poverty did something to me. It made me angry. It made me frustrated. So for the past week and a half, I've been trying to get an appointment with the vice president. She's not here yet, but eventually she'll show up and I'll have to knock on her door and say, hey, listen, what the heck is going on? I'm not asking for 20 classes. I'm just asking for 3 sections, 3 extra, so I can give it to people who've been here for like 10, 15, 20 years, but now they have no classes to teach. I mean, people have lives. Life is expensive. They need money. I don't give a shit about what they want in the classroom, man. Give them like a paycheck. What's wrong with you guys? Right? And you realize something very interesting. Poverty has forced me, and I don't like to be social. I'm not sociable. And I don't like to go on the 7th floor. You know, I like to keep to myself, and that's how I've been for the past like 30 years. Okay. Poverty has forced me to become a bit more social. I become a beggar now. I go to the president. I go to the dean. I talk to the secretaries. So what you have in India, what you have in the Middle East, okay, not so much individuality, but community-oriented. When you are poor, when you are desperate, when you are sick, you need people to take care of you because you can't do it on your own. I mean, look, if you come to this class every single day saying, I'm sorry, I can't ask questions because I haven't eaten for a day, and I want to eat but I don't have any money, that poverty, when it's expressed, something will happen to these people. We're all Scrooges in this room. But someone, even the most ethical person in this classroom, may go to their parents' house and steal $1 or $2 and give it to you. Poverty makes you social because you need, and you can't provide on your own for yourself. It doesn't work that way, right? And this is one of the things that you need to understand about poor people, at least people who come from, Middle East and India and Mexico and this stuff. And you can be, Western, it doesn't matter. As long as you haven't forgotten your past. And everybody's past, without exception, has had moments of poverty where they're desperately in need of something, and for that to be satisfied, they need help from someone. Okay. In the Middle East, what we have is connections. That's the only way you survive life. Okay? So, Ahmed is from Yemen? Egypt. They're all the same, really. Okay? So what you do is this. You realize that your son is at 20, 24, 25. It's time for him to get married. You have a friend. That friend has a couple of daughters. You pick the most attractive one. Okay? And you make sure that they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't, just naughty things. And then you say to this kid, this guy, is she ready for marriage? Yes. You get the daughter. They get married. The father goes to another guy and says, listen, my son just got married. I need him to be employed. And all of a sudden, the next day, he's got a job. And that's how poor people function. They have all these connections. Here, the story is very, very different. Here is what you call meritocracy. You know what meritocracy is? You make your life, you break your life, you create your life. And just in case your life falls apart, it's your own doing. Now, the social factors, nobody really cares for. The psychological factors, no one really cares for. And so, this is really, really tough. If you come to my office and say, Amir, I know I haven't done any work, but I need to pass this class because of ABCD. I'm an immigrant, man. I'm not going to fail you. Approach me as a human being in a nice, civilized way. I don't want money. I don't want coffee. Just behave decently. If you feel bad for not having done any work and missed a lot of classes, be a little contrite. Be a little sad. And let me feel that you actually mean it. Don't be a fucking ass. Don't give me like shitty excuses. Because I know your life is not your own. You're just a social product, a political product. There is nothing about you that belongs to you. You're just the outcome of influences and exposures. That's all. The point I'm trying to make ultimately, Leah, is this. Poverty creates unity, whereas privilege creates fragmentation. Now, if you're asking when did the West, or namely America, become what it is, number one, there are many parts in the American culture that's still very communal. Okay, are we past time? What is it?
51.
51?
Yeah, 10:51.
I have an appointment I need to go to at 11:30. Thank you, Ahmed. Ahmed, again, my apologies for taking so much of your time. It's good to see all of you. See you Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.